Start recording. Great, we've got the recording started. My name is Jean Gibson. I'm one of the co-chairs for the Women's Energy Network Chicago's educational programming. Very excited to be here with you today and welcome you to our part 3 of our Powering the Future series, focused on digital grid and the evolving customer needs, expectations, and interaction. This has been brought to you together by a collaboration from our Chicago chapter as well as the Atlanta WEN chapter. So we're very grateful for that collaboration and excited about the great content we get to bring to you. I'd also like to thank and introduce today's facilitators, Sarah Nelson and Alba Soriano. They will be guiding us through today's panel discussion and conversation. And without further ado, Sarah and Alba, please take it away.
Thank you, Jean. And to give everyone a roadmap for what our panelists are about to share, we are kicking off with our Southern panelists who will take us through the journey of how utility customers and their expectations have changed, what the challenges that utilities are having and how they are adapting to those challenges and addressing them. And then we'll transition to talk with our excellent panelists who will be sharing how customer experiences are also being shaped by real-time system enhancements, devices, and distributed energy resources. I am delighted today to introduce our Southern panelist. Nichole Pierce is currently the director of the customer service and marketing technology portfolio of Southern Company. And she's responsible for the technology related to sales and marketing, billing and customer services, call center technology, and all customer self-service channels. Lisa Jarrard serves as the enterprise planning and strategic support manager customer services at Georgia Power. Lisa is responsible for designing and implementing customer services strategy and technology solutions. She also oversees customer service system support, online customer care changes, and executive customer relations. So very excited to start this conversation with them today. And I will start my question today first to Lisa and talking a little bit about customer expectations and knowing how we modern customers are expecting similar expectations across several industries, and these are carrying on to the utility industry. So we would like for you to share with us, what are you seeing in terms of how customers are now expecting to interact with the utility? How has that changed? What are the things that you're seeing?
Thank you so much. I appreciate being part of the panel today. As you most know, our customers are comparing us to the experiences that they have in other channels with other providers. The collective experiences from companies with varying success in digital transformation. They're holding us to the standard of the Amazons, the Bank of Americas, the Netflix. This means we must transform the experience to be more proactive, more predictive, and more personalized. Customers really expect detailed and accurate information as it pertains to their personal usage, when their power outages occur, when it's going to be back on. This expectation has really only increased over the last year since more customers have transitioned to a hybrid or work from home environment too. In addition, we are recognizing a shift in our channel usage that customers really don't want to have to call us. Southern Company as a whole has seen significant increase in our digital customer touches as compared to traditional customer touches, meaning going into an office or talking with a live agent. If we look back over the last 5 years, 5 years ago, we were about 50-50. 50% of our customers were engaging with us through some type of electronic means. 50% were still calling us or talking to a live agent or going into an office. Today, that's closer to 75% to 25%, customers preferring digital channels.
Thank you, Lisa. And Nichole, what are some of the challenges that the utility is facing when trying to adapt to some of these new expectations from our customers? Nichole, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry about that.
I would say in both our customer service and marketing portfolio of applications, as well as within our power delivery application set, we have a combination of new technology as well as some older technology that's on our technology roadmap for replacement. So probably not unlike many of the utilities on this call, there's a combination of older technology and newer technology. And so these older systems, combined with an increased need to leverage data in different ways, especially around AMI data, that Lisa mentioned it, that customers want more access to their data, so that we can provide additional customer insights, both internally as well as for our customers. We've had to think about how do we access that data in more effective ways. So as we start to use the AMI data more proactively and in new ways, and more than just one read a month for billing, there's that ever increasing need to focus on data consistency and AMI data completeness. And so to help us solve some of the challenges that we've experienced with combining customer service and power delivery data, we've developed a data platform that we're using for analytics and to provide data for various use cases. It also allows us, as we get ready for our CIS implementation, to identify areas where we need to focus on data cleanup to be prepared for that large system conversion. So that's been some of our big challenges as we're thinking about tomorrow. We're still living in the world of today with our older systems and just trying to make the best use of that technology and the data that's now available to us.
Yeah, and Nichole, you started talking about some of the things that that Southern is doing to address those challenges. Can you speak maybe more a little bit about some of the things you're doing to also unlock the opportunities around consistency of experience across channels or transition to digital self-service? What are some of the other things that Southern is doing, not only to meet those expectations, but also unlocking some of those opportunities coming out from how the market is changing?
So we continue to invest in all of our customer self-service channels to help our customers complete those interactions efficiently and to provide that seamless self-service that Lisa mentioned. We've invested a lot of effort in our voice response unit in the call flow and have increased our call containment within the VRU by predicting why a customer is calling and providing that information they need early in the call. So for example, when a customer is on a payment plan, we provide them the details of their next payment, so they don't have to go all the way through the menu to get to the information they're calling about. Similar, we do the same thing when we have a known outage and a customer calls. We start the call by letting them know that we're aware of the outage. And then we additionally have proactive text alerts to further reduce that call volume, especially during storms. We also provide that same information proactively on our web online customer care application. So making sure that the information is consistent in all channels is also critical to reducing this customer confusion and to avoiding additional customer calls. So the digital channels, Lisa mentioned that the customers are getting more and more used to doing business with us across our digital channels and applications. So we're investing there to drive additional increase in customer satisfaction and then for the business operational efficiencies. It just continues to be more and more important to make sure that the data on every channel that the customer interacts with us is consistent, and that the customers are able to complete their business in the channels that they choose and at the time that they choose. So we're making big investments there because the customer is moving and their expectations are changing, and so we've got to continue to make those investments.
Nichole, and you mentioned they're giving the customer the ability to complete the transactions in the channels that they choose. And I was thinking, Lisa, you mentioned in the first question about the expectations of, they don't even want to talk to you. With COVID, they expect power to always be on and all of that. Can you share with us an example around that where Southern was recently maybe able to quickly turn around and leverage some of these principles that Nichole is talking about on addressing those challenges and meet those client expectations?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So in my 30-year career with Southern Company, I have never experienced a situation that was so impactful to our employees and our customers as the COVID pandemic, which of course led to disconnect moratoriums and then subsequent planning to really help our customers during this time of need. All of our Southern Company electric operating companies, Georgia Power, Alabama Power, Mississippi Power, all receive the same, all work under the same technology platforms and are supported by Michelle's organization. We worked really close together during the pandemic early on to start with a digital first approach and strategy on flexible repayment plans, and really looking at how we could deploy this in a very short time frame and get this out to our customers. It required us to work across our regulatory environments to come up with solutions that were either transferable across different groups, or we could customize small things, but really working together to get these out in a very quick time frame. We were one of the first utilities in the nation to return to normal operations, but we were very thoughtful, very cautious, and kept the customer at the center of all of our actions. We experienced enrollment. 85% of our repayment plans, or our special payment plans, 85% of that enrollment was done through self-serve channels, which also benefited the customers that did want to talk to us because they didn't have long wait times in order to get to a live agent. The experience was very personalized in both online customer care and our voice response. As Michelle mentioned, it was front and center. They didn't have to dig for the offers, and it was proactively offered. We also reached out to customers more than seven times through emails, on our website, and through text messages, informing them about what our digital first enrollment would look like. It was very successful and really helped our call center to be able to work through the increased call volume when we did return to normal.
That is great. And there's so much to say about what you both have been sharing about knowing the customer, knowing what they're expecting, how they want to be served, how do they want to complete transactions and all of that. And when we talk about that, Michelle, you mentioned something around things that Southern is doing with the AMI data. We all know that AMI is a very foundational component of the digital grid transformation. And so when it comes to looking at all that data that's being generated, that data crossing with how do we use that to get to know our customers better? Is there something that you can share with us around how Southern is looking at leveraging some of that data coming out of AMI from a customer perspective?
Yeah, I mentioned the data platform that we have built to combine our customer service and power delivery data, since those systems today are very siloed. This platform has really allowed us to more quickly provision data for new use cases. Currently, the data is a day old, so we load it once a day. It's from the previous day. So we're not using it for any transactional use cases, but we are currently considering options for more real-time access to some of this data. We're in the early stages of that, but again, with an eye towards our future state, knowing that many of our core systems will be changing, we're trying to develop a way to have more real-time access to core systems without specifically accessing those systems directly, but not building anything that would be throwaway as we move to some of these new systems. But it's given us a lot of flexibility. We're working with other third-party vendors that will give us some additional insights that we can provide to our customers. We do some home energy audits. And again, pulling some of that data from that platform has really streamlined the effort and help us to get those additional insights that we can then provide to our customers, both to them directly and then internally to our business partners within our business that can drive some additional products and services to serve our customers better.
And talking about additional products and services, the last question of this first section with our Southern panelists, Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when we talk about those new products and services and innovation and other things, would love to hear from you how Digital Grid has sparked some customer innovation at Southern to take advantage of those new opportunities, and maybe just what that story of that innovation has looked like for you.
Great, thank you. So two of the initiatives at Georgia Power that I'm most proud of are our prepay program and our strategic placement of remote reconnect and disconnect meters. First, our remote reconnect and disconnect meters. We have strategically placed nearly 640,000 remote meters since 2012. This is only 25% of our customer base, but it has increased our automated order completion from 20% in 2013 to 77% year to date for 2021. Of course, we recognize the operational savings of not having to roll a truck, but the customer experience is also enhanced when service is connected or restored in minutes. In addition, during peak call volume periods, our team can throttle and hold RCDC meter orders to allow live agents to catch up on call volume and minimize customer wait times, improving our overall service level. Our RCDC meter deployment has also enabled us to have one of the largest prepay and pay-by-day programs in the nation. We have just over 81,000 customers enrolled, and we're continuing to see this number grow. We consider prepay as an option for customers that may want to pay off accumulated arrears over time, customers that don't want to pay a deposit up front, and customers that may want more control or flexibility with their rate for locations such as a mountain house or a lake house. Customer satisfaction is really continuing to grow with prepay. And I think a lot of that is because our median reconnect time is 31 seconds. 98% of our reconnects are completed in less than 5 minutes from the time a payment is made. That's pretty significant. And then that does help us with churn and retention on the rate as well as bad debt, and how that does help us from a charge-off perspective. In addition, customers like it that they don't have to pay a reconnect charge, and they don't pay any fees to make a payment. Really are two additional components that have driven success with our prepay rate.
Thank you so much for sharing those, Michelle and Lisa. That has been great. We really appreciate you sharing with us how Southern has been able to take advantage of all these opportunities and quickly being able to adapt to these new customer expectations. We are now ready to transition into the second part of our panel with our excellent panelists. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Nelson, who's going to facilitate that part of our panel today.
Hey, Alba, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Nelson, and similar to Alba, I'm a senior manager in EY's digital grid practice. So I'd like to introduce to you Willa Hightower and Nichole Owens from Exelon. Willa is a director of strategic planning at Pepco Holdings, where she leads the development of the customer strategy. And Nichole is the VP of customer channels at ComEd, and she's responsible for technology investments in web-based and digital platforms and facilitates one of the largest utility financial advocacy portfolios. So Willa and Nichole, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's jump into the discussion. So sort of picking up where we were just at around AMI, I know that at Exelon, AMI deployments were a significant investment and definitely have clear cost savings as it relates to the utility. But Willa, can you share with us some of the benefits or savings Exelon customers are seeing related to AMI? For example, are we seeing the affordability of energy change?
Well, you know, affordability is really key to having the information to be able to make better decisions. So making sure, so AMI meters facilitates our ability to do that. And so we partner with other vendors in order to share that information with customers on a regular basis. Some of the things that we're able to share with our customers is to send high bill alerts. So we can alert customers, hey, your current consumption pattern is going to make your bill higher than it was this time last year. So if you want to do something about it, if you want to crank the thermostat up, you can do that before you get your bill at the end of the month. So those are always great opportunities. Also provides customers with the option to choose real-time pricing. So if you're one of those customers that doesn't happen to be at home during the day, well, with the hybrid work, I don't know how much of that is happening, but we can choose when to use electricity. So we can make our choices to use them off-peak and sign up for rates that will allow us to make those decisions as well. So we have some peak time savings rebates. It also allows for some demand response as well, with regards to having the information and the data to be able to share that. As our partner at Southern just talked about, they have prepaid meters. And so we have a pilot going on at one of our opcos right now. BGE has one, which is part of our Exelon family of utilities. They have a pilot going on right now with regards to prepaid. And we've also included it as something that we're looking at potentially in New Jersey and Delaware. So we're going to see what that looks like as well. It also facilitates our ability, customers' ability to participate in whether it's demand response on a more global level when it comes to when the PJM system might need some additional support because it's just so hot outside.
Absolutely. So I feel like that's a great transition when you start to talk about that, monitoring and control, whether it's DR or other aspects. A great transition, sort of my next question, which is, one of the big areas of digital grid has been the investments in the real-time control and monitoring systems. So in your experience, how have enhancements to the outage management system or that move more to ADMS impacted now the customer experience?
Absolutely. So I think we can all agree communication is key, especially whenever you're talking about outages. Customers always want to know, not just, oh, thank you, I'm glad that we're in the process of being restored, but is it going to be 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days? We don't know, but our customers want to know so that they can respond accordingly. Well, AMI meters provide us with the ability to understand nested outages. So we can understand how local is it or how broad is it, especially when it's a really big storm. Before we reach out to our customers and say, hey, your power is restored, we can send a message to the meter and the meter can communicate back saying, yes, I'm here. So if a customer decided to go stay with a friend or family in another part of town, they know when to come back home. So I think that that's really important. I know I've appreciated that, in times when these storms have come through. With regards to customers being able to shift, we talked about that a little bit earlier with installation of the meters, but again, information is power. Having this information, especially during outages, reduces the number of calls we may get. We're really leveraging different technology, our apps on the phone, so customers can report and exchange with us in those ways. Reduce the number of unnecessary truck rolls, especially during an outage where time is of the essence, and we want to make sure we've got our resources in the right place to be able to address customer needs as things come along and as they occur. And that way we can obviously deliver financial benefits to the utility with better service to our customers. So it's a win-win for everybody. One of the other things that we also have that we're working on in the near term is to provide like an outage tracker. So kind of like the whole Domino's thing, where we can acknowledge that we've received your reported outage. We can let the customer know when a crew has been assigned, when the crew may be en route, or if they're about to show up on site, and then we can confirm that power has been restored for our customers. So our AMI meters provide data and information to be able for us to better serve our customers on a daily basis.
Awesome. Thank you, Willa. I completely agree. And your example of the nested outage really resonates with me because I think we've all gotten that call back that our power has been restored and it really hasn't. And how does the utility not know that I still am out? And the idea of having that communication right, at the customer service point allows you really to know that. So that example really resonated with me. I love it. So speaking of these smart devices, I mean, the smart meters are probably the least of the smart devices that there are in our world today, but it feels like we are just adding more and more of these devices to our lives every day. And I'm curious, how are the utilities leveraging these smart home devices like maybe Alexa or Google Home as part of interacting with your customers? And maybe some of it's not available today, but rather, kind of on the forefront in the upcoming future.
Yeah, so, couple of great examples you just mentioned, the home devices that customers have in their home, whether we provide it as part of an energy audit, so customers can have that awareness and or leveraging cell phones to be able to share that information. As we were preparing for this today, one of our partners, she turned down her air conditioner from her phone. Or if I left home for the day, or if I left home for the weekend and I forgot to turn it down, smart devices are interacting in that regards. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, in terms of sharing information where there may be some high bill alerts, those are ways that we can share reminders. So whether it's outage inquiries, we can use our wearables, whether it be like an Apple Watch or our cell phones, to inquire about simple things according to, has my bill been paid, or how much do I owe, and and Alexa, pay my bill, if you've already set up a wallet on the customer preference center. We're working on being able to do that. The other thing, and I think this is one of the things that we're working on in the not too distant future, as we continue to move forward with electric vehicles, we've got electric vehicle rates and things along those lines, but you may just want to know, well, how much is my EV costing me? So that's one of those things that as we have more information, we can leverage that to share, make that data information that becomes valuable to the customer, so the customer can make the decision about how they want to use energy and how do they manage their carbon footprint. So AI and machine learning, it's all part of that transformation process for us to be able to be more proactive, such that we can meet customers' needs where they are.
Absolutely. And with your mention of electric vehicles, I think that's a great transition to some hot topics that we keep hearing about. And Nichole, I'm hoping that you can talk to us a little bit more about that. When we think about the introduction of distributed energy resources, maybe solar panels, how has this changed the interaction between the utility and the customer? Just this idea of these distributed energy resources.
Yeah, Sarah, I love that question. Although I'm not the foremost expert in it, but because of my role, I interface with customers a lot, and just getting their insights on how the model of the utility is shifting. I think we've seen utilities across our nation really try to best understand how we can support customers in their decision making. We know customers are going through a journey right now. If it is looking for solar, battery storage, looking at demand response programs, beneficial electrification, all of those options are at their doorstep. And what we are noticing is that many customers are often very interested in understanding, one, how they can be a very environmentally friendly advocate, how they can also save on energy. And when you think through all those things, the one source of information that customers constantly rely on is the utility, because we've been that cornerstone for a number of years for them. It's interesting because we have a couple of focus groups that are going right now, Sarah, and we are learning from some of our customers we're really engaged and interested in what our utilities are thinking. But on the flip side, they want to know, well, wouldn't the utility be losing money? So why are you so interested in helping us out with finding alternatives? And it's twofold. One, when we continue to look at the different options of distributed energy resources, we do know that that's a better investment for our grid. It is a better investment for our customers, because what it does help us to do is to make sure that regardless of if our customers want to be 100% solar or 100% another option, that they have a grid that they can rely on, and that we're investing in a grid that ultimately is there to satisfy their needs and whatever their ambitions are. The other thing that we're seeing is there's a shift in our model where customers are getting this information not just from utilities, but from other outside organizations. In some cases, aggregators are really showing up and providing a lot of intel to customers. And that really does shape the model of how we're interfacing with our customers, but then also interfacing with third parties on behalf of our customers. And Willa just told me that my camera is blurring. She's always a good girlfriend that way. Like, girl, fix yourself. Something's going on with the camera. So how was that?
It's perfect. It's perfect. And Nichole, you were just mentioning aggregators. I think it may be helpful for our audience to hear a little bit more about what aggregators are. They may be surprised that they have already interacted with an aggregator. And also maybe just like you were starting to talk about, what are some of the benefits from the utility to work with these aggregators who might otherwise seem like competitors?
Yeah. So aggregators in its most simplest form, they create one-stop shop for customers. That's essentially what they do. Ironically, I want to say it was back in like 2017 when we at ComEd initially started looking at how do we create a solar journey for our customers? What does that entire experience look like for our customers? And so we did a lot of benchmarking with a number of utilities. And we heard a sense of these aggregators, but the aggregators in some territories are really aggressive. You can see aspects of aggregators wanting to be just your suppliers. Like you can either get your supply, your energy source from your base utility, or they'll say, well, we'll supply you with all types of green energy, such as solar. And then once we supply you with that, we can also be your one-stop shop for your bill. So you don't have to pay your bill through 3 different places. We can aggregate all of that for you. And some customers have, and we've talked to aggregators too, because we want to understand their models. What's interesting enough, we started finding out about aggregators not because they were knocking on the business door, but because they was knocking on our customer doors. And our customers were signing up for aggregators. And our customers started calling our contact center, asking questions about, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to have a ComEd bill anymore because I signed up with this company. And because I signed up with this company, why am I getting this information from them about my usage? And it's like, oh, okay. So that caused us to really shift in our model. Our CSRs had to be trained on this concept. The information that we had available for our CSRs had to shift. We end up inviting some of the aggregators in to meet with them because our customers were having a unique experience with them where they didn't have a lot of questions answered, but they were coming to us, like I mentioned earlier, as that source. And so from that standpoint, we thought it was beneficial in a couple of ways. One, we do want to be there for our customers to help them make whatever decisions to enable that decision making for them. Of course, they will decide what choices they would like to have. And on the other side with aggregators, it's really interesting. Some of the packages that they're pulling together for customers, we're not going to obviously do. Like the level of investment in some cases, we may not pursue as a utility. They're trying in some cases to look at your EV load, your gas load, your just all types of ways that you're using electricity. And even in some cases, how you're splitting your credit card bills. They really try to look at one-stop shop for a customer. Well, credit cards are not in our wheelhouse per se, but can we partner with that aggregator to make sure that our customers are getting the most up-to-date information, the most accurate information, so they can make the best informed decisions about their energy use and how they may want to think of different alternatives? Certainly can have those conversations with aggregators. And the customers, although they are trying to make those decisions, sometimes they do need a little assistance. So we've done some homework by putting on our website, like our solar calculator, where customers can go there, put in the dimensions of their home, put in a lot of more details about their specific home, and it produces for them information about what a payback could be for them, what an actual cost for the system could be for them, how much they could potentially save. So we try to give customers tools that enable them to make good decisions, but you also find out through these aggregators what they believe might be a value add for customers, and to make sure that customers in our territory really get the truth of the matter and get the skinny on how all of that would work.
That's awesome. Thank you. You have me just thinking about, solar panels in general. I feel like I should have one on my home, and I don't. I want to say for many years I was a renter and felt like I really couldn't have a choice in putting a solar panel on my home. And today I live in a community that for some strange reason, we are not allowed to have them on our homes. I think it's just because the builder didn't want to make the roof strong enough, but that's my personal, I might be reaching there. But when we think about solar panels or other forms of distributed energy, it seems like there's a lot of different barriers at times to entry on those. And And I know that Exelon is doing a lot around this space. Can you describe maybe some of those challenges to getting access and what Exelon or maybe other utilities are doing to try to, help mitigate those challenges?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Sarah. I'm a part of a committee across all of the Exelon family of utilities, and we are tackling this question specifically. When we brainstormed, we identified close to 11 barriers for customers. When you're looking at beneficial electrification, getting into solar, EVs, and even some of our most traditional programs like energy efficiency, where you would think that it's not that difficult to get in. Some of the barriers that we found. First, in some of our jurisdictions, we have to look at the policy and the rate making. Sometimes it's just somewhat of a challenge in order to break through to make sure that customers will have access to these solutions where it's affordable for them. The other thing that we found is education is key, where we thought that you can provide a nice, shiny brochure and a pamphlet. In some cases, customers need more Q&A. They need to have a dialogue with you so they can ask questions, so they can probe a little bit more. You're not going to get customers convinced that they should purchase an electric vehicle, because what you do see in most markets is the Tesla. And what you do see is how you have to upgrade your home so it can size appropriately so you can have a charging station there. But the truth of the matter is there's some miseducation out there. And so there's a dichotomy where we have to identify ways where we're better educating customers. We're being very clear on the cost of entry for customers, because the price point sometimes isn't that expensive. To your point, access to the infrastructure was another barrier that we discussed. Some customers believe that I have to put a panel on my home in order to do that. And therefore, if I'm a renter, I'm absolutely out of the solution. Here at ComEd, we just launched, working with NextAmp, what we call a giveaway program, which allow customers to enter into a solar program through a community solar project. And so those different alternatives are various options that we can consider for customers. So this was our first one. We're about to announce 2 more in the next coming less than 30 days, where it's going to be 2 more that's going to grant more solar options and solar access to customers in inner city. And then to help sort of start dispelling some of the myths around what those barriers are. And I gotta, slap us on the hand a little bit. Sometimes the utility, we don't do ourselves the best favor. When you look at some of our marketing material, you may see images of wealthy homes, large yards, fancy cars. That's not the reality. So is everyone really viewing themselves as having that type of status? And if they don't, then maybe your commercials aren't relative to them and they're not relatable. So they don't think that this is a market for them. We literally had customers to tell us in our research that we didn't think that the programs are for us. When we see the images, it doesn't look like us. It's not things that we can relate to. And it's like, what? And we thought we were really gearing towards mid-America, general Americanism. Not even the case. We were conveying to them a certain segment of our customers is more applicable to these type of options in all of our customers. So we've done our homework, and we're looking to make some upgrades and some changes to that. But I think that the world of DER is certainly going to open up to especially those customers that have not experienced that equity. And so how do we make sure they get it?
Awesome. I appreciate that answer. That's just it. Again, it inspires me to maybe dig a little bit further on my own choices around putting DER in my home and trying to at least find out the real answer of maybe why I have that versus just what I've made up in my head. So with that brings us to the end of our planned questions for our panelists today. Although I'm sure that this has inspired questions for the group. I think we mentioned at the very beginning, please feel free to put those questions in the chat, or I think you've all been muted upon entry. So if we can put them in the chat, we can go ahead and ask those questions to our panelists here. So I don't see any questions quite yet, but just on the topic of electric vehicles, if folks have those, does it just, to the group here, I'm thinking, Nichole, you may be well positioned to answer this too, but, are there maybe models that the utility is putting forth where I would utilize my electric vehicle battery to feed the grid, for example, or are we not quite there yet?
Yeah, I can start, and then certainly would love the other panelists to chime in. Two-way power flow is something that we've had to significantly invest in over the past few years when it comes to our grid. Envisioning a world where we currently right now at ComEd, we have a microgrid. It is a microgrid that's powered through solar energy in our Bronzeville neighborhood, launched a number of years back. And as we're monitoring that microgrid, we are seeing where we would have to make sure that we have devices on our grid that can monitor that load if there's going to be too flow of energy. I think we're trying to imagine a world where any of that is possible. If it's electric vehicles, if it is at some point your washer and dryer at home that can generate a source of energy and then put power flow back in. I think that customers are waking us up. We don't want to be the Kodak of this industry, you know, like Kodak, who knows that name anymore, unfortunately, but cameras back in the day, and sort of now it's just at the fingertip, it's on your phone. And so as we continue to think through, we have a number of innovation labs that tap into sort of that two-way power flow conversation and that engineering to see what's possible. Can't say that electric vehicles wouldn't be one of them, but we also want to be open to if there's others.
Absolutely, absolutely. Michelle and Lisa, is there anything related to, you know, kind of what's next at Southern and in terms of the customer journey, whether it's electric vehicles or DER or, you know, just even what's on the forefront as it relates to your customer journey, maybe that you want to talk a little bit about? I bet Michelle and Lisa, I bet you guys were on mute, and I should have just asked one of you so that you weren't both deferring to the other.
I'm here.
And I think we have a question coming. You know what? Let me prioritize this question to Lisa from the audience here. So it says, Lisa mentioned how Southern has had great success with the RCDC remote meter with just 25%. And, oh, remote connect disconnect. Okay, it took me a second to do that translation. I'm sorry, the remote connect disconnect meter with just 25%. When will they be doing the rest?
So right now, our plans don't necessarily involve changing out all of the meters to remote disconnect or reconnect meters. And so we're really trying to strategically place them from both an operational component, a cost component, and then also because we'll have some residents that go in and they may not move for 30 years. And so does it make sense to invest in the meter for that type of premise? And so we are trying to make sure that we're very strategic in areas that have a lot of move in and move outs to be able to have our most of our RCDC meters in those areas. So we do quite a bit of analysis every year to make sure that we're placing those in the right places.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense to have that really targeted program where you're going to get the best return there in optimization. Okay, I don't see any other questions yet in the chat, so I'm just all of them are just going to be Sarah's personal questions to the panelists until we see more questions in the chat. I think you guys have done a really great job of covering a tremendous amount as it relates to the customer interactions. And I have to say, I still don't look at the material that comes from the utility as much as I should, given my proximity to the industry. But I think I'm trying to think of any other questions I have for the group. Carly, is there anything you have for the team?
I think Michelle was just going to pop in and you had asked her that first question about what else is maybe Southern looking at. So I think she did pop on camera. So wanted to give her the opportunity to respond to that one.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you. I was just going to echo some of the stuff that Nichole mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of similarities with the work that you guys are doing and what we're doing at Southern. We're looking at electric fleet. We're looking at the aggregators and what can we do to not prevent the aggregators, but to make sure that we're the face to the customer. And where do we make those investments? Where do we leverage third parties? So we're evaluating all those things now. And I mentioned data, and I'll mention it again only because it's at the core of everything we do, and we're having to really think differently about how we leverage it. And so leveraging those third parties, thinking about the aggregators, getting data that they may have that we don't have, all those things are things that we're thinking about and trying to make sure that we're relevant with our customers and that we are always, their touch point, their go-to, and that we have that, continue to have that relationship with our customers. Obviously on the C&I side, that's even more important. And so we're looking at those investments and making sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers there.
Great. I see another question, a couple questions come through here. So I'll take the most recent one first. It says, for electric vehicles, is there a big difference in the trends based on locations within the US? And she says, not sure if the East and Midwest and South are seeing different rates of adoption and interest. And I know that both Southern and Exelon definitely cross multiple different states. And I think we also know that a lot of times that there is a, regulatory or policy aspect to some of this that either helps enable it or otherwise. But I'll defer to you guys. What do you get? Are you seeing different adoption rates in different areas in the U.S. and maybe what do you think some of the drivers around that are around electric vehicles?
Yeah, I think that I could start. I think the most that we've seen is very dense populated areas. And unfortunately, this does become another equity question. And I saw another question in the chat of what do we envision customers' preference would be. But accessibility is huge. We joke and talk a lot now, even internally, about some EVs and just in some of its limited capacity for travel is what has been discussed quite a bit, and having that infrastructure available in various states. So I can't necessarily say specifically what states we have. We know that California has really been booming with EVs, but they drive. You think of a New York that like no one wants to get behind the wheel. At least I don't want to get behind the wheel of a vehicle in the city of New York. Nothing against New Yorkers because I'm a Chicago driver, but it's just sort of that ability to drive and that mobility that the environment provides a particular state and provides a particular city and town, and also that infrastructure. I get the biggest question that I get is are we going to see gas stations converting themselves to also charging stations? And man, would that be a wonderful concept? Like every corner you could have access to either gas, diesel, or electric for customers. And I think many customers are looking at this as an option that they will want to pursue for EV. But I think some of this was stifling a lot of the growth rate is just the access to the infrastructure. And I think California has done a really good job with building out their infrastructure, thus enabling a lot of EV adoption.
Yeah, I think another thing, you have a great point, Nichole. And I think another thing where you'll see areas where you see more EVs is what federal or state incentives and the size of those incentives are there to encourage customers to make the leap, and then it also depends on what your commute looks like. If you're one of those people that has an hour and a half or so commute, because I remember Atlanta is crazy, but even driving into Philly every day, my one-way commute is an hour and a half. So, if I've got 90 miles, what do I have to do after work today? So what does that look like for me from a performance perspective? But as the battery technology continues to improve, I think you'll see some of those concerns that some of us long commuters have experienced change. And with more hybrid work options being available or remote work options being available for employees, I think we'll start to see more in terms of adoption because some of those other concerns will be quelled.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are making me think of gas stations now from a perspective of, if we see the Sunoco and BP logos on them now, what logos will be on there in the future? Is that going to be an Exelon logo, for example, or a Southern Company logo? I know there's a lot behind that. I don't expect you to answer that question, but I think that those are some things that, you know, in the kind of the changing world that we expect to start to see. So I'm going to go to the question from Maggie that Nichole, you started to touch on, but I want to ask it more explicitly to the group here. Where else do you envision customer preferences going beyond, you know, billing and DER? Where do you think those preferences are moving to? And Michelle and Lisa, maybe I'll turn it over to you to touch on that a little bit.
So I'm happy to kick that off. I do think that customer expectations, you know, as it relates to preferences, are going to continue to evolve, particularly as we look at the digital space. Customers are going to expect things like, you know, a native app that is fully functioning with every transaction accessible that they can do. They're going to expect more things like chatbots or virtual help to get them through those transactions versus having to call. And I really think we're going to see a transformation occur at our contact centers. Our agents are already handling the more complex issues that come in versus the easier things that can be moved to self-service. And so I think we're going to continue to see that evolution to occur with complex issues. AI is definitely going to take a front and center approach for us over the next few years, and how we adjust our business model to that is going to be critically important.
And Willa or Nichole, I can't remember who mentioned it, but you talked about the pizza tracker to track an outage. We're talking about a pizza tracker to track start service. So, you know, I think we all get used to that with all of our other apps that we use and the other business that we do. And I think the expectation is that you get that everywhere. And so trying to react to that and be proactive to that, you know, we've all got to have an eye towards that because expectations have changed.
Yeah, and as we kind of keep track of customer expectations, you know, being able to be proactive. So leveraging the information that we have in a way where we can be proactive, we can keep it very simple for our customers, I think really goes a long way, because as you just mentioned, Michelle, you know, expectations are continuing to evolve and they are not lessening.
Absolutely, that's for sure. I feel like that's a really great comment to end the session with. Just, you know, no matter what industry folks are in, I think you're absolutely right that customer expectations are always increasing. They're really never decreasing these days. So I like that as a final thought. So, you know, Jean and Carly, I know, in fact, I think it's Jean. I know you were going to wrap us up, and I know folks have their, you know, 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. meetings to get to. So I feel like we should be respectful of their time. Do you have a few last remarks to leave the group with, and then we can let everybody get back to their jam-packed meeting schedule, I'm sure.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah, very much. Thank you to you, Sarah and Alba, for guiding us through our conversation today. And Lisa, Nichole, Michelle, Willa, thank you so much for bringing your expertise, for giving us your time and your knowledge today. We're very grateful that you could be here and educate us further. So thank you to all of the panelists and our facilitators. Thank you to the Chicago and Atlanta chapters for the collaboration. I would just like to remind everybody to watch your inbox for future invitations. We also have a series going on focused on the natural gas transitions to low cost, low carbon energy systems. We've had part 1 of that 3-part series. We have 2 more pieces that will be brought to you middle fall, so looking to probably late September or October. But part 2 will focus on near-term solutions with a focus on improved safety and resilience of natural gas infrastructure. And then finally, part 3 will be long-term approach for net zero. So more good content to come. Please watch your inbox. And Carly, unless you have anything else to help us with today, I think that wraps us up, and everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.